I think I'm live. I think I'm live. I hope I'm live. Perhaps I am live. It's always a bit of a question because I don't use native either YouTube or Twitch or whatever one I'm using. I'm using like a service that's like an intermediary just to make my life more difficult. And that's why I'm always like, am I live? Because you don't really know for sure. It appears that I am, but I don't know. Yeah, it should be, maybe, perhaps, Twitch. How you doing out there, Twitch? Grovel, what's up, man? Long time no talk. Yes, briefly, Grovel. While the world is doing its thing. Ergo, a very different space. No more Wheat's studio for the time being. But we hope to rectify that in the future. Well, how is everybody out there? Tom A, welcome. Grovel, so glad you're back. Grovel, so glad you're back. Oh, people always want to know. So glad you're back. People always want to know. Right now I am reviewing the Icon pod-based system. Yes, a new pod-based system. Yes, another pod-based system. Look out, Steezy. Look out, Pax. Look out, Plug and Play. Look out, Pax. Because there's a new Icon in town. Yeah, just started it. I'll have thoughts about it. Just started it. The pod itself is some Skywalker. The pod itself is some Skywalker. Okay. Philip says, first off, glad you're back. Philip says it's a little bit lonely. Glad you're back. Does that mean yourself, Philip? Are you sort of sequestered in quarantine, not getting to see friends and family as much? If so, I sympathize, man. I am sorry. It's been rough for everybody, but it's rough for everybody in a different way. Rough for everybody in a different way. This whole experience is tough on every single person, but it's not tough on people in the same exact way. Tom says, smoking on some rainbow cookies and life is good. Glad to hear it, Tom. That's pretty awesome. Rainbow cookies. I don't know if I've ever had rainbow cookies before. Is what? Not that it really matters, but I just like to know. Indica, sativa, hybrid. I just like to know. Grovel says there's a weird echo. Grovel says there's a weird echo. Grovel says there's a that echo. Grovel says there's a that is probably my fault. Let me know if that fixed it. Is it fixed? Fixed, I hope. I think I was messing up and there was audio coming out of something else. Steph, welcome back, Steph. And Sergio, welcome, Sergio. I don't know if you were with us yesterday. Thank you for the heads up that my voice is doubling up. Hopefully that is no longer the case. Wow, so many people letting me know. Okay, cool. Thank you guys for letting me know that it is fixed. Glad to hear it. That was totally my bad. Irresponsible. Then again, a little rusty at this. So while the party's getting started here, I'm gonna go back and grab a bag from the volcano. And as everybody likes to know, again, this is the same as yesterday. Delicious, wonderful Claiborne County 1 ounce, 36.25% THC. Pretty ridiculous. Pretty good. The volcano's set to 425. Ground up weed. guess I'll talk about something that I would have loved to have reviewed, but now I won't. So, on my last live stream, which I believe was 420, somebody told me about this amazing thing that you can get for the volcano called the magma or the obsidian. A glass attachment that you basically stick on top of the filling chamber, and then you stick the bag on top of that glass attachment. It's basically like a bubbler for your volcano. It filters out all the bad, little bit of shit that actually gets into the bag through the filtration process. I had one. I ordered one. Had it. Loved it for 3 days. It really was great. It really did enhance the whole volcano experience. But then, of course, it just... Well, it's a big... Here it is. It's disgusting. So this is the volcano attachment, not clean at all. It is covered in super glue because I just like this, it tipped over and broke right at that seam there. Just such a, I mean, yes, I knocked it over, shame on me, my fault. But at the same time, man, it was very, very fragile. I was looking forward to reviewing it and saying nice things about it, but at this point, I don't want to disparage them because it definitely works, and it is a good product when it's working, but at the same time, I think the build quality is pretty doo-doo, or maybe I just had maybe it had a flaw in it to begin with. I don't know. It's supposed to be I can't remember the exact pronunciation of the glass that obsolete boret or whatever it's called, the very, very hard, almost much more difficult to break kind of glass, kind of like Pyrex. But it broke. It sucks. But it was good for a bit, so I'm not going to review it. So, that was a long-winded thing. Sorry. Okay. Where are we? Again, thank you again so much for letting me know that I am fixed. Derek says, what's up? Not too much, Derek. Thanks for joining us. That's it. Thank you, UJ Jackson. You nailed it. It's the same kind of glass that, the Puffco Peak, the little, special glass receptacle it has is the same kind of glass. But it didn't survive a fall even less than its own body height. It just tipped over and broke. So it's a shame. But again, not going to review it. Something has upset my dog. Oh, also, let me grab it. We had a lot of fun yesterday with the Breeze Royal Mint, extra fresh. And I, because there are 100 hits in here, I only did maybe 15 on camera yesterday and 10 before that. There are still a hell of a lot to go. And about 30 minutes earlier, I did 5 more. So I'm under 50 milligrams already. This one's just for you guys, just for the fans, or these two. We'll call it 2, because if you're gonna do one, you might as well do 2, because it's gonna burn. And it's not a totally linear rate of burning, right? You don't just two blasts isn't double the burn. 3 blasts isn't triple. It's not a... We're not talking about linear progression anymore. but we should. I'm failing. Oh, wait, there we go. Nope, I locked it. Unlocked. Ugh. Ugh. I had never actually, I'm almost certain, I don't think I've ever actually used a mouth spray before. I always figured it was kind of like a thing that only existed in pop culture that nobody ever actually used. I do remember, especially back in the 90s, you know, there were always jokes about people spraying breath mint or breath spray into their mouth. But I'd never actually seen anybody do it until now. All that weird 90s breath freshening stuff is coming back with weed. Do you remember Listerine strips and what a weird cultural blip they were? For about like 2 years, everybody was using those dissolvable little square blue strips that you'd stick on your tongue. They would dissolve instantly and make your mouth feel like you licked a battery, but a clean battery, for the next 2 hours or whatever. And now you can get those in weed as well. Canna strips. I know I've taken canna strips before. They are just like Listerine mints. Why? I don't know. You know? I guess with weed, everything gets its 15 minutes again. Philip says, thumbs up for the slackers. Yes, always, Philip. And also, who's to say what a slacker is, right? I mean, slacker is such an ambiguous term. Who gets to determine what is and isn't slacking, and what is and isn't contributing? Live your best life. If your best life includes staying at home and playing video games all day, you know, more power to you. As long as that is what you think your best life is. Tom says, breath spray is a real thing. They never taste great, though. I knew they were definitely a real thing. Like, I knew they did exist, the little I just had never seen anybody use one. I'm trying to think of another example of something like you would see all the time in movies, but you wouldn't ever actually see people really doing. But yes, they must have existed somewhere for somebody. Not good. I mean, they're still not good in that, but that's the point, is to make your breath very, very fresh. It's, each time, it's like eating a whole Altoid at once. UJ Jackson says, Gold Spot Breath Freshener. Is that a particularly good mouth spray, UJ Jackson? Never tried the Gold Spot. Wow. Okay. Trying not to cough. So what's going on in the world today that isn't terrifying, that isn't anxiety-inducing? And well, why is that the sort of go-to thing anyways, is current events? You know, you always sort of pivot to, if you don't have anything to talk about what's going on in the world right now. Current events, you know, I guess because we all have some kind of opinion about current events because we are all living through them, or living them currently. So we're all experiencing them, so we all have something to say about them. But if you choose a different topic, presumably not everybody has some way to contribute. Is that why we pivot to current events? Or is it because humans are just genetically dispositioned to want to gossip, to want to, share rumor, and rumor is much juicier when it's about current events than it is when it's about some weird, vague topic about, either something in the past or something even more abstract. I don't know. But we could always talk about the weather, though, because the weather is even more, it's the safe topic of all safe topics. Hillbilly Hippie says, "Peace, brother." Well, welcome, Hillbilly Hippie. Where are you from, my hillbilly friend? Hillbilly is a term that I hear so much less than redneck. I'm from hillbilly country. I'm from East Tennessee. And hillbilly is... People fondly refer to themselves as hillbillies, but occasionally took the term redneck. If they didn't try to reclaim it, then they also were quite offended by it. But yeah, hillbilly. It's it seems to be a very regional term. Tom A says, very hot here in New York. Sorry about that, Tom. Tom, are you from New York City, or do you live... it's so annoying to ask people that in New York. In both directions, people who live in New York City hate it when you think of New York as anything but New York City. And then if you live in, Albany or Buffalo or wherever, and when somebody says New York and you just assume the city, they get rightfully irritated too. So I don't want to assume, Tom, but I'm asking if you have AC, because if you do live in New York City, it's far from a guarantee. Hello, dogs. We've got some dogs here. Hey, buddy, come on up. Come on up. Say hi. What's going on? But yeah, that sucks, man. The weather is quite wonderful. 74 in Long Beach right now. It was a little hot over the weekend. I think we hit like 84 degrees. No thank you. But now we're back down to a far more reasonable, moderate 74 degrees. Sorry, not to brag. Well, I guess to brag. Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to interpret that other than me just like rubbing your face in it. So I am sorry for that. But I do live in Long Beach, which has the record number of nice days of any U.S. city. I know I've said this factoid so many times. Of any city in the United States, based on the metric of days where the high is between 70 and 79 degrees, or 70 and 80 degrees, and is sunny outside. So it's usually pretty good here, and it's easy to take it for granted. Derek noticed correctly, says, you getting high, nice and peaceful. That is correct. The breeze is certainly taking effect. The volcano also starting to erupt. I did like the name of both of those things that I talked about, the magma and the obsidian. They're just good puns based on the volcano, but what can you do? Exhibit 600 says, bro, right back at you. Exhibit 600. Glad you could join us. Philip says, no new hurricanes. Let's keep it that way, Mother Nature. Berserk, welcome Berserk, says, it's only 108 here in Arizona. As Peggy Hill once said, this city shouldn't exist. This state is a testament to man's hubris or something. Yeah, Arizona. It's like, I can't believe Arizona. Like, I think Phoenix has been the fastest growing city in the United States for like the past, I think like the last 2 years, and then, has always been in the top 5 for forever. And it blows my mind. And Phoenix is only gonna get hotter. I just, it's crazy how many people want to move to Phoenix. And it's not like, oh, I'm sorry about, I've never been to Phoenix. No, I have been to Phoenix, but I was very young. Don't remember anything about it. But I don't know of any, like, I'm trying to think of any cultural touchstone, any, like, if a movie was set in Phoenix, what would they show as an establishing shot? Other than just, like, the heat waves coming off the sidewalk, I don't know. Not to talk shit about Phoenix, but also talking shit about Phoenix, who the fuck wants to live in a city that routinely has days, like, above 115 degrees? Ugh. Phoenix. They've, very appropriate name. Exhibit says, Hillbilly, lives in Georgia. Well, thanks for letting me know, man. And he also, Philip agrees that hillbillies are good people. Exhibit says, love your vids, man. Waiting for my plug play cart at the moment. I hope it comes soon, my man, because that will be quite the improvement to your day, I am sure. Tom is from upstate New York. I'm glad I didn't just assume. Syracuse? Is that upstate? Hudson? Is that upstate? There's this fascinating survey that I heard recently, and my wife reminded me of recently, that if you ask if you ask international people from, Europe or Asia, basically, I don't know if it was every international location, but a lot of different countries were surveyed. If you ask them to, like, name the top 10 most populous U.S. cities, or the biggest city in the state of Texas, or what's bigger, Atlanta or Miami? If you ask people internationally, they will get that accurate. They will be able to order those more accurately than people from the United States. And it's not that I think it's interpreted that it's not just because of, American ignorance, the typical, reason to assume we don't know things. It's actually that they assume it's being overthought. Like, Americans will know so much more about each state than people from other countries, that they start plugging all these other ideas into their head. Like, well, I know more about, San Francisco definitely has more movies shot in it than San Diego. Like, do I know anything about San Diego? So yeah, San Francisco has to be bigger than San Diego. But if you're from, Budapest, you've maybe just, well, San Francisco may be a bad example, because I think San Francisco is smaller than San Diego, and more people have definitely heard of it. It doesn't matter. You got my point. I don't even know what my point is. But thank you for listening to the rant. Philip Baca says, you let the dogs out. I did, but they've left again already. They don't like me. Tom says, 74 in the LBC. All good, man. Yes, it's so wonderful. Mr. Garza is here. Thanks for joining us. He says, sup, mate? Not too much. How about yourself, man? Hillbilly Hippie says, absolutely beautiful place. Are you referring to where you're from, Georgia, Hillbilly, or Long Beach? Because there are certainly spots in Georgia that are breathtakingly beautiful. I know I've been to Atlanta, a dozen times in my life. And the area of the state I spent the most part in would have been the Chattanooga area, but Dalton or whatever that first city is. And right there at Chattanooga, man, some beautiful, beautiful stuff. I don't know where in Georgia you are. Pretty big state. Exhibit says, Arizona is one of the last states I'd move to. No offense to Arizona pros. I 100% mirror that sentiment. Exhibit, again, no offense to the Arizona boys out there. It is a beautiful place. Have driven through Arizona quite a few times, and it is stunningly beautiful the entire way, at least through 40, but that heat, man. Derek says 95 in Massachusetts. Whew. East Coast, man. I do not miss that heat, that summer heat, and even more that humidity. No thank you. No thank you. No thank you. Summers could be so fucking brutal. John, I'm going to say John from New Jersey. Do you ever make your own tincture? I'm on a medical from New Jersey and make my own. I have, John. I have made tincture two different ways. I have made tincture from MCT oil, infusing decarbed cannabis that I made from the Ardent Nova, and decarbed it into some MCT oil, and then made an MCT oil tincture and also capsules that way. And then I have also done, I just can't stand it. I can't do it. But I have made the alcohol, the grain alcohol based tincture, where you just put a bunch of weed in the highest proof alcohol you can get your hands on and just stick it in a cool, dark, dry place for, at least a month. Strain out the shit, and you've got yourself some tincture. I have done that. I just cannot. I can't do it. It's so repulsive. It's so disgusting. I have no tolerance for alcohol. Not in terms of I get drunk immediately. Well, I guess I maybe do. I don't know. I just get both the taste of, and the more pure alcohol, the worse, like grain alcohol. And then I have also I just get sick from incredibly low levels of alcohol. And it's just, a single dropper of it just turns my stomach. I mean, it really makes me want to puke. So it works. It's just, ugh. And I've eaten some really revolting things for this experience, but can't do that. But I'd love to hear your recipes or what you do, John. Maybe you have a secret method that'll be much improved. Berserk says they just don't go outside in the summer. That's your only real hope there, I guess, in Arizona. Do they have like skyways and shit like in their downtown area? Do they have ways of connecting you between buildings without making you have to go outside? Like, is it Minneapolis, St. Paul that famously, like, their downtown has just shit tons of skyways between buildings, like brick-covered bridges between buildings downtown, so that people don't have to walk through there. It's the cold in the winter, but I don't know. I thought I maybe read that Phoenix does something like that. Maybe not. I don't know. Adam says, and welcome Adam, says he's out here in Brooklyn dabbing on some hash heads. Hope you're enjoying it, Adam. Thanks for joining us, man. And right beneath him, we've got Tim. Tim Reed. Welcome, Tim. Says, the second wave is coming. Bill Gates is gonna vaccinate everyone. Well, we can only hope a vaccine for everyone would be a wonderful development. Bill, yeah, you could use your fortune for worse things. You didn't deserve your fortune to begin with, but that's a story for another day. But if you got it, yeah, you're not. At least you're not, buying record-breaking yachts every year. They are petty people. For example, the rumor is that Jeff Bezos just bought. Well, this is true. Jeff Bezos bought like $125 million mansion in Los Angeles, I think last year. That's not the rumor. That's true. The rumor of why he did it is because Lachlan Murdoch, the heir apparent to the Fox empire, the Rupert's favored son, had just purchased the record-breaking mansion in Los Angeles earlier that year at like $90 million or something, and that Jeff Bezos just wanted to show him up, especially because they're don't need to get into anything political, but that is just to say the rich like to engage in dick measuring contests. And we all suffer for it. So Hillbilly was referring to LBC. Jack Wilson says, can of butter? Yes, Jack Wilson. I've made can of butter as well. Use that Ardent Nova. I also have a Infusium 420. Like a magical butter maker, but not. And it's really good. It makes making the can of butter easy enough that even somebody as dim-witted as myself can do it. I fucked it up. Don't get me wrong. Even as easy as it is, I have definitely fucked it up. But I routinely leave the aluminum foil on Pop-Tarts when microwaving them too. So you can't expect much from me. Patrick says, Raw Garden versus Plug and Play. Mr. Bateman, you sociopath, you. On aesthetics, it would have to go to Raw Garden. But on substance, and that's might be why you want it, Patrick. Let's just, never mind. It's not even close. Raw Garden is good. Raw Garden makes good stuff, and it's pretty affordable stuff. They sell quality stuff at very reasonable prices. But Plug and Play is still, without a doubt, the best vape whatever I've ever had, ever. It's just, it's not a contest. It's Plug and Play is still, even though it's been a year since I reviewed it, and I've tried a lot of other things, it is still my favorite thing I've done, for sure. John says, I use the Ardent Nova and use avocado oil. I have, John, heard avocado oil is a good one to try. I had almost tried it at one point because my wife had avocado oil already, and I was like, oh, I've heard this is good. But then when I went to use it, I just randomly happened to look at the expiration date, and it was, like 18 months over the date. And it was like, nah. Oh, I had some little... I just noticed my finger had some chalk on it of some kind. Jonathan Jason says, LBC baby. Yes, Jonathan. Mr. Jason. My home sweet home. And Jonathan wants a happy birthday to his grandmother. I gotta say, Jonathan, I don't think your granny is watching, but if Granny Jason is out there, is really out there, a sincere, true, heartfelt, happy birthday to you, Granny, Grandma, Grandmother. Then there are all those southern ones, your mamas, or mimas, or nanas. So, John says, I'm fairly new to weed, under 2 years. I seek out high THC. Many people say THC is not that important. What are your thoughts on THC? Does it matter? John, THC is the thing that matters the most, for sure. It is the psychoactive compound in weed. Unless you're looking for very specifically like the effects of CBD things, which I assume not if you're coming to weed and not CBD, it is just true that the higher the THC percentage, the higher you will get. There is a 1-to-1 like correlation there. A weed with 10% THC will be half as strong as weed with 20% THC. You will get that, now I know you could argue like, well, maybe you don't get as much in your bloodstream, but it's like, no, it's not real. I mean, it's still gonna largely, even if you don't absorb it all, it still comes out, proportionally about the same way anyways. Yes, high THC percent is, unless, the only thing, John, I can sort of think in there why they would sort of suggest that is if they are more into strains and very specific things that strains may effects strains may have on them. There are a lot of people who are very very choosy about what strains they smoke because they say that different strains have very different effects on them. I do not find that to be the case for me. Largely, not always. There are some variations I totally allow for. But largely for me, weed is weed, and what it comes down to is what the THC percent is. Tom says, I'm thinking of buying an oil infuser, but they are pricey. What, is it a specific thing? So I know the Ardent itself, you can actually infuse oil in there, or the Infusium that I have is designed, its primary use is making butter, but it makes any oils just fine. You can put any oil, any oil that will carry THC in it, and that isn't super burnable. You can use MCT oil, avocado oil. You can just infuse it right in there, as long as you have your weed decarbed first. But I don't know, maybe there's a specific very nice oil infuser. Mick Jab, I'm just gonna go Mick Jab. He says, have I ever whacked off with hemp oil lube? And then follows it up with, are you Jesus's gay brother Lars? Mick Jab, I have never actually tried whacking off with hemp oil. I don't understand the topicals myself, really. I have tried them before, not in that region, but other places, and it's just, it doesn't, I mean, I know you can have THC absorbed through your skin, but I know there are other reasons for it, but because it's an anti-inflammatory. But I don't ever use skin creams of any kind ever for any reason to begin with, so I have no baseline to compare them off. Nor do I have. I mean, I have plenty of reasons to use them because I have a face that's been described as goblin-like, and the skin of a snake nearing molting is how I've heard it described. But I just stubbornly refuse to do any of that stuff. So I don't know. But the weed topicals, not for me. So I've never needed to. I've never needed to try with the hemp oil loops. Sorry to disappoint Mick Jab, but I think I am going to not disappoint you with the next question, your follow-up, which is, am I Jesus' gay brother Lars? And the answer is yes. Jack says, higher THC percent, more trichomes, better terp profile, better flavonoids. Not necessarily all of those are true. Not necessarily, no. The only thing you can guarantee with higher THC is higher THC, the psychoactive compound in marijuana. It is not the only psychoactive compound in marijuana, but it is certainly the most potent, the one that has the most recognizable high feeling. Mick Jab says, so you just put it on your balls then, not that shivity shaft? Mick Jab, no, I haven't even ever used the hemp oil on my balls either. Let alone my shivity shaft. So again, disappointing you about the hemp oil. I'm gonna go get a refill here up on this volcano. Oh, I left the oven turn on. We'll just have to wait. I've been playing a lot of Tetris Effect recently. Oh my god, guys, Tetris Effect. I had played it already on PC VR, but now it's been out on the Quest for a while. It's so fucking good. It's just, it is so utterly soothing and joyous, and it is just a wonderful way to spend some time listening to some music and getting in that old Tetris Effect. I know what you're thinking. Tetris VR, isn't that the last thing you would ever think of as a VR application? And the answer is yes. It does seem like that should be the case. But under the direction of that, I don't want to mispronounce his name again, but the guy who made like Luminous and fucking Rez and shit, it's so amazing. The music isn't just utterly incredible, but it's the visuals that go in the background behind your Tetris game and also inside of your Tetris game that are just so stunning. And being in VR is totally enveloping. You know, you've got giant fucking whales splashing around and fireworks shooting from behind your head above some hot air balloons while some, beautiful EDM music is playing. So good. Tetris Effect. I usually go about three refills, or three bags for every chamber I make. I'm sure people have opinions. I'm sure many of you will say, what? You're wasting your weed. You could definitely do it. 2 more times. As well as some of you, I'm sure, are like, what? 3 times? There's nothing left. How could you do that much? You're just hurting your lungs for no reason. And to each of you, I say, you're right. I've been letting people know they're right. Mick Jab is gunning for the ban. Says, do you think LSD is good for children? No. Derek says, how does that gadget work you are using? The volcano? Derek, is that what you were asking? Or the Oculus? If the volcano is what you were wondering, I guess I should scroll down in chat to see if you answered. It's just a hot coil with a fan above it and a little oven that sits on top of that fan and blows hot air up and into a big plastic bag. And there you go. It's you must. I mean, not to insult anybody's intelligence. I'm sure the volcano is a very famous and pricey vaporizer, but it is worth every dollar. It's worked flawlessly for me for years, and I heartily endorse it. Especially because you get to keep all that extra AVB, already vape bud, to make edibles with. Valid says, you too. Valid. YouTube is poop tube. Says, what's up, bro? Not too much, poop tube. How about yourself? Love that name. John says, what are your thoughts on celebrity strains like Mike Tyson or Willie Nelson brand? No different than Air Jordans or, Matthew McConaughey selling a Lincoln, I guess. It's, you're gonna pay extra for that. There's no harm in it. I guess there's definite harm in Mike Tyson selling weed. Mike Tyson is a convicted rapist. Not alleged, like convicted. And we've all just like forgotten, which is weird. But Willie Nelson, Willie's a great guy, you know? I don't know. I wouldn't buy his weed, but more power to him. The only argument I could think is the argument against it is the same argument for any celebrity thing, which is that it's a meaningless endorsement and why give rich people more money anyways? Derek says, what do you use to fill it with smoke? It is a little oven chamber. It's a little cylindrical thing. I can show you. YouTube says, enjoying a nice Cresco cart while watching. I actually have a Cresco cart and a Cresco RSO tincture in there for a future review. I've never done anything from Cresco, but looking forward to it. What is your opinion, Poop Tube? Any good? Valid says he keeps hearing that Tyson flower is a top shelf. Good. Good for the grower. I'm sure Mike Tyson had nothing to do with it. Sherry and Arthur Power. Welcome, Sherry and Arthur. Says, I love your channel and it is very informative. I was wondering if you've tried Country Cannabis Nectar 500 milligram bottle. It's awesome. I watch you go purchase edibles before. I go purchase edibles, and I respect your opinion. Thank you so much for the kind words. That's very, very nice of you to say. I have not had the Country Cannabis Nectar, but that actually sounds really good. I've been really into the tinctures and tincture variants, all the things that they call tinctures that aren't tinctures, but call them that so that they can get a higher dose edible. They straight up have syrup now. I mean, not scissor, but weed syrup that is, they call tincture. Just like the same stuff that they sold years ago, like cannabis thick syrup, that was, intended to be modeled like drinking codeine syrup. But now that is also, they just call it a tincture, and I guess it's like the definition of tincture is so spongy. It's like, what is a tincture? Is it, so I have an 800 milligram tincture, which is just a syrup, like a thick syrup, and the only thing that distinguishes it from the stuff that they were selling like a year ago, when they were selling it as just a 100 milligram edible, because that's technically what it should be, because it's not what I think of when I think of tincture, which is something vaguely medicinal, or I don't know. But the way they get around it is this big, massive fucking bottle of strawberry flavored syrup. Is they have a dropper that they have rubber banded to it. Just like a shitty, probably bought them in massive bulk from Alibaba or something. Just a generic plastic eyedropper that's just rubber banded to the bottle. And it's like, well, that makes a tincture. It's like, well, okay. I mean, I'm glad. I shouldn't be, I'm not arguing against it, because I think it's great, because it's really nice that there are now higher dose edibles available. It's just, I'm not a fan of the word, but I'll say it's just silly, the sort of game we all play. Andy from Periscope. Welcome, Andy. Says, Mike Tyson is the champ, son. He certainly was the champ in boxing. That is true. He, by all accounts, he had one of the most devastating, as far as humans have gone in recorded and measured history, and as much as we have been able to measure these things, Mike Tyson has one of the, or had one of the probably greatest abilities to kill somebody in a single blow to the face of anybody ever. So, maybe that's an accomplishment. Maybe that's something we should give people millions of dollars in respect for. The fact that you have a body that can obliterate other bodies just by, in a single blow. I mean, yeah, cool. In that regard, he was the champ. Derek says he'll come up with his own strain, Roofie Kush. Woof. That is, that I am surprised that is not already a strain name, to be honest, Derek. I am very surprised. YouTube Poop says, it's amazing, man. Super potent. Glad to know. I'm looking forward to trying both of those then. THC Temple says, have missed your videos and streams. Hey, it's Kappa. What's up, Kappa? I've missed hanging out with you, man. I'm so glad to be back. Now that things are more settled, the world is still in a tumultuous state, but I hope to be streaming a lot more. Working on, at the very beginning, people saw this, a new icon review for the new icon-based pod system. Yesterday, I had reviewed the Breeze Royal Mint, and also did that with the live stream. Maybe I should do another 2 sprays, right? For posterity, again, using that term incorrectly. But so glad you're back, Kappa Man. I'm sorry to have been gone, but really glad you're coming back and hanging out, dude. Valid says, have I ever eaten a full 1,000 milligrams? Yes. Yes. Not often. I've done it on live stream before. There earlier in my not career. I definitely did one on a live stream. I have failed to do some on live stream before where I've gotten too high. Been just unable to finish. But yes, I've not often have I done 1,000 milligrams in a single session-ish. But I have done it. It's a lot. It's too much. I mean, nobody should, shouldn't be done. But I love it. And would do it again in the future. But, user discretion advised. Details may not suitable for children. TVMA. Sherry and Arthur say they are from Oklahoma and notice we all have different products. That is true for most states, Sherry and Arthur. Most states basically only allow weed that is grown in that state to be sold in that state. So, like, you can't import weed. So that makes it much harder for companies to set up interstate commerce between places because they have to get that weed from that state. So they have to have like different grow operations and shit. That's just one reason. Of course, then transporting stuff across state lines, if you're like going to Colorado from California, you're going to be breaking the law. Technically, you shouldn't even have weed on any interstate because that's federal. And also, weed companies are discouraged in a variety of ways from getting too big. One, your Attorney General, William Barr, has a sort of bloodlust for killing cannabis companies. He personally ordered like the Justice Department to prevent the merger of like 5 different weed companies for no reason other than just total pettiness. He's going to make those things hard. And then also, I don't know. I feel like this doesn't get talked about a lot or enough, and it's kind of like at some point it's got to be a big deal. Is there are no real trademark protections or copyright protections for weed companies because that's a federal thing. It's a federal copyright trademark system, and you're technically not allowed to. A cannabis business is an illegal business, and you can't copyright something that is illegal. So, most brands have piracy problems because anybody can just take their name and shit. Andy says, tincture this. Maybe. Jason says, Mike Tyson is a Trump supporter. Go figure. Andy says, we should all support Trump. Who are you going to support? Biden? Ha 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 ha. We weren't talking about it. That has no bearing on our conversation, Andy. We don't. Not a topic for us. Miller Time says, what's up, wheat? I almost mispronounced my own name, which should give you an indication of how high I am. And to Miller Time, I say, it's always... Miller Time is beer time, right? Beer pun. Thanks for joining us, Miller Time. I'm really glad you're here. Sherry and Arthur says, as far as edibles go, yes, that is true. Probably true for most products as well. Carts, tinctures, all that stuff. A lot of it's going to be different. I know there are some companies that do have operations, like Corova is also. You get a lot of things that are in contiguous states that are, neighbors. So like you get a lot of things that are in both Arizona and California, and Oregon and California. That Washington and Oregon, that kind of stuff. YouTube, it says, did your area make dispensaries medical only during the Rona? East Coast did. Wow, I did not know that, Poop Tube. No, they did not. I knew there was a weed shortage. Weed shortages were definitely a thing there at the beginning. Weed dispensaries, not only were they not medical only, they were considered essential services still, and right from the beginning, and were allowed to be open constantly. Still totally allowed to be open. Thank God for California. I mean, there's so much weed grown in California. There was definitely shortages here in some regards, in terms of there were like market pressures, but we didn't have anything like you in other states did. It's California. I mean, it's fucking it's weed mecca. It's the weed capital of the universe. So fortunately they did not. I'm sorry for anybody affected out there on the East Coast. That really sucks. I understand that as a decision, however. I don't want to disparage that as a decision. I don't know anything else about it, but that really sucks, though, for those who had to go without. Willy Wonka, welcome back, Willy Wonka. Glad to be hanging out, man. It's been a while, I know. Miller Time says, how many milligrams is your usual limit with edibles? Great question, Miller. Right at 100, because that's what all edibles really in California are 100 milligrams. Of course, we were talking about tinctures earlier. Those go up way more. But being that most edibles are 100 milligrams, that's my usual limit, as I just do a 100 milligram edible at a time now. But when I do tinctures, I will often do more than that in a single go. Although I still find THC molecule for THC molecule, baked goods, things with lots of butter and fat, are just a better source of cannabis delivery, at least for me, than anything else. I've never quite understood why it seems to be, but it does seem to be true, at least for me, in my experience. It seems to be true that baked good edibles, ounce, like 100 milligram baked good edible, so a 100 milligram brownie, not invariably, that's the wrong choice of words, certainly more often than not seems more, gets me higher than a 100 milligram equivalent tincture or capsule or something, like that. And I've never been sure why. But I it's just an observation. Sherry says, and Arthur, we just got medicinal this year. We are trying to catch up or bring it out of the closet anyway. We have a lot to learn out here in the country. Sherry and Arthur, I was so surprised that Oklahoma ever even got medical. I mean, I guess they've got pressure sort of all around to do so. But, you think of Oklahoma as I always think of Oklahoma as the most conservative state in the union. And the fact that they're beating out, some moderate-ish states just was very surprising, very cool. I'm very excited to hear that it's happening, and it seems to be going well so far. Hopefully you get the full recreational before too much longer. Willy Wonka says, how would you rate Raw Garden's oil and wax top 3 in quality, price, and consistency? Raw Garden is... it's like, I don't have anything... To me, it's like there's just a great tier, but I don't really have any, I've never tried anything that's like so much better than anything else that I would say it's would be elevated against that. Raw Garden is great quality stuff. Absolutely love it. The best thing about them is that they are very affordable for the stuff that they put out. Like, it's high quality stuff, and it's much cheaper than sort of equivalent quality competitor stuff. So I have no problems with. I love Raw Garden. I don't know if I would have a top 3 from them, or if they would be in a top 3, but I would put them as a top tier oil concentrate, shatter, butter, full spectrum guys, but I don't know if I have a specific top 3. Valid says you can buy boxes of counterfeit top shelf labels on Amazon. Thank you. Okay, so yes, that was part of the. I made a whole video on it, which is so weird when I would hear that months later. Oh my God, I have something to talk about. This is okay. Somebody alerted this to me, and it's real interesting. It's real interesting, guys. 1 year ago, like a year ago almost exactly, released a video about MedMen and what a shady business they are. Just a totally creepy, shady business they were, and how the whole thing seemed to be kind of fraudulent. I wrote this, made a video about them, and somebody about a month ago alerted me. They're like, hey, Politico just put out a piece about MedMen. That's like, and they're like, it's exactly like your video. And so I read the Politico piece, and it is, there are a lot of similarities to the video that I made. There are a few similarities to a video I made like 11 months earlier. Not alleging anything, not even suggesting anything, but it was just, it was sort of gratifying to see Politico, very influential web magazine, to basically report the same things that I did, and even use some of the exact same words that I did. But you should read Politico's story about it. But you can also watch my video too. I never thanked the person who sent me that. I never would have known. I would have, but I need to find it and really thank that person. But yes, MedMen is falling apart. Cool. I live in Long Beach, live very, very, very close to a MedMen. It's actually why I released that video about them. It's because I live very close to one. They got totally looted. They're the furthest store away from downtown, would be my guess, that got looted. From downtown Long Beach, which got looted. There's not an insignificant amount of looting here. Sucks. There is, we don't need to talk about. Anyways, Yeah, MedMen got looted. Politico wrote an article about them. They seem to be falling apart. No shocker there. Derek says liquor stores were essential, but the dispensaries weren't, only medical-wise. Ah, Derek, yes, the old double standard. You can have your booze, but you can't have your weed. It is no longer acceptable to just be dismissive of people. I just remember, when I was listening to arguments about weed, should weed be legalized, before it was ever even, when I was like in high school and shit, and, the first argument always came up like, well, weed is so much safer than alcohol. And it was just one of those things, it's like, oh, that's just, come on, that's such low-hanging fruit. It does, you can't prove that. It's just yada, yada, yada. Come on, make up something new. We need a new argument. That doesn't mean anything. It's just, it was bullshit when anybody made that as a deflection from that incredibly cogent and important point that weed has never fucking killed anybody by being ingested, and alcohol routinely kills at least thousands in the United States from ingestion alone every year, not to mention the knock-on fucking effects of alcohol and alcoholism. And the fact that just for fucking goddamn decades, people would just shrug off that as a criticism, like, oh, come on, is that the best you got? Oh, it's safer than alcohol. Boo. That was it. That was your only argument against the fact that saying, why the fuck is weed illegal when alcohol is legal? That's it. And we just, it's infuriating. And it's so goddamn American. It's so blithely dismissive of objective fact in the face of just long-held opinion for no reason. It's infuriating and so emblematic of America. I have no strong feelings about it, though. Valid says, Chicago also took recreational off the table for months. I did not know that. That is huge. I mean, Chicago is now a massive market for weed. Yikes. Again, I do see... I understand if you're having a weed shortage, like genuinely fearing you're going to run out of weed, why you would restrict it to customers who need it for medical reasons. That makes total sense to me. The privileging alcohol over it makes zero sense and always will, and never accept any... Just if somebody ever tries... If you ever try to make that argument still, if there's still some dumbass out there who, thinks that weed should still remain federally illegal because it's a dangerous substance, blah, 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 blah. That person is arguing in bad faith. You have no reason to listen to anything that they say after that, and you should just... anything coming from that person's mouth is suspect. Anybody who makes that argument does it in total bad faith. Knowing in bad, I mean, it's everybody knows now. I mean, your 80-year-old grandfather knows that weed is safer than alcohol. He knows it, yet he may still make the argument that weed should be illegal because reasons, and alcohol shouldn't because reasons. And just anybody who will have that level of cognitive dissonance should just be put on your real life ignore list. Doesn't matter who they are. Miller says, I'm happy to be living in California during this. Me too, my friend. Dispensaries have been a lot better during this pandemic. Honestly, Miller, I totally agree. Somebody, I think was it Jane yesterday, who had the hypothesis, maybe objective fact. I wasn't 100% sure, but it was a good theory that because there was this crunch for weed at the beginning of the pandemic, even in California where we grow everything, there was still, there were market constraints because there was more weed being purchased than normal. So, prices did go up, at least briefly, nominally, when things started. But his suggestion was that in response, people then started growing too much because now the prices had gone up. I mean, just very standard market dynamics. People chasing that, higher profit. But then there was an overgrow. There was too much, which has now led to prices coming down, which is a thing I talked a lot about yesterday. Prices have come way down, at least in Long Beach, in dispensaries, for all products across the board, and it's great. It's wonderful. I hope it keeps happening. Derek says, I need to go visit my sister in San Diego. Derek, I somehow 2 hours away. I've lived here for almost 5 years, 4 years, almost 5 years, I think now. Love it. But I've never been to San Diego, and it's shameful, and I'm ashamed of myself. But I will go at some point when one can travel responsibly again. Andy says, I sound like Duncan Trussell. I did not know who that was until very recently, because there's some new Netflix thing, this weird, bizarro animated thing with it. I've seen some of it, but only half paying attention. It's quite bizarre, but apparently the guy narrating or having the adventures is Duncan Trussell. I'm not sure if I should be flattered or insulted, but I'll be flattered. Thank you, Andy. Adam, welcome, Adam. Howdy back to you, man. And Adam says, I should try a Dynavape. You are not the first person to suggest the Dynavape. I need to do it myself. I just saw it pop up on a different one. People are telling me to smoke weed. You're right. J buddy. I let the volcano go again. Right back. Woo! Heating back up here. In the meantime, you guys rightly chastise me enough, but to be fair to myself, briefly, I have had now at least 100 milligrams of oral spray. So, weird phrasing. So I am quite high, even though I haven't been doing as much combustibles. But I hope to rectify that. I was going to even offer penance with a dab. As penance for not having consumed in too long, shame on me, we'll do something a little bit more high THC. My dog, I had mentioned her before. She's right there, just off camera. Big ass Great Dane, sleeping. Lazy, lazy, lazy frog, you're lazy. You're so lazy, girl. She's great, though. She's almost 8 years old now. Good old frog. She likes sleeping. I forgot to show you guys what I was doing and consuming, all that. For that, I apologize. It's some kind of something. I don't even remember what the strain name is. But I do know it's like 83% THC. I don't even remember what the company is. It's good. It's fine. It doesn't taste great. But it gets the job done. Oh, let me finish this out. Okay. I'll do the last volcano bag in a bit. Adam, again, mentioning that the Dynavape, you are right. I'd like to try one first. I did have my dealer in, it's a weird, my dealer, the guy who I bought weed from in East Tennessee, in Knoxville, he had a Dynavape and loved it. I just happened to get the Volcano first, and then for the oils I got the Puffco, and have been content with those. So I haven't experimented out, but am certainly willing to try in the future. And if it's good enough, maybe it gets added to the collection. Adam says, I make my own edibles out of Reclaim, and they rock. I do the same, Adam, with my Volcano. That's one of the things I love most about the Volcano is taking my AVB. I like to even run it through my Ardent. I know it's already technically decarbed, but it doesn't harm it to run it through the Ardent, and just in case, Ardent themselves, the Ardent Nova makers, do suggest they have some fancy graphs, done some fancy analyses that say that you do actually extract a little bit more or decarb a little bit more THC that way using a particular oven. Doesn't matter, but love it. Yes, I totally agree, man. It's the best thing about herbal vaporizers is you get to make edibles after, and edibles are the best part of weed. Still heartily agree. Or agree with myself. It's a little overindulgent. Miller says, have I ever tried Smokey's edible gummies? If so, what are your thoughts? I don't think so, Miller. I don't think so. I'm going to go with no, but if they're the trouble reviewing edibles like in the modern era, the modern era being 2018 and onwards, I guess, in California, is because all edibles are lab tested and because they all have basically the exact same sort of formula for what they do, 100 milligrams divided into 10 or 20 pieces. There's very little variation between them. It's like there's just, to me, they're like two categories. They're like, hey, this one's, it's good. It's 100 milligram edible. Definitely got me high. Or like, nope. For whatever reason, I did not, maybe this was a bad batch. I don't know, something, this is not a good edible. If Smokey's gummies have been lab tested and they're sold in California, they're very likely, and again, there is some wiggle room here for sure. I've definitely tried 2 edibles that are marked as 100 milligrams that I have been very different levels of high from, but mostly it's incredibly consistent, and the real advice is go with whatever's cheapest. Seriously, when it comes to like gummies, they are all made pretty much the exact same way. There's not a lot of, just go with whatever's the cheapest. It's going to be made pretty much identically to the one that costs 20% more. But that's just my, it's just some advice. YouTube is PoopTube says, I usually buy dabs just to decarb and make goodies. PoopTube, I have still not done that. I have not, shame on me, I've had my Ardent for so long, done so many things with it, and I've always meant to decarb concentrate. I still just haven't done it. I need to do it. I will do it. You're not the first person to recommend that to me either, PoopTube, that decarbing that way, decarbing concentrates. People always say it's a good thing. Just haven't done it. Welcome back, Grovel. Harry and Arthur say, how is a full spectrum THC better than the others, and can you make a full spectrum THC product at home, or does it take special equipment? It's largely a buzzword, full spectrum THC. I mean, I'm sure there are people who disagree with me, and there are, I'm sure, differences. It just means it has the whole cannabinoid, terpene, endocannabinoid profile. It has all of the stuff that was present in that weed is in that oil, that butter, that shatter, that rosin, whatever it is. And to be honest, I have no idea what is required to make full spectrum THC product as opposed to just what isn't full spectrum. I assume it does require some additional equipment of some kind, just because there is usually a premium, or there was, but now either full spectrum doesn't mean anything and people can just use it without actually having to be that, which may be the case. Like, it could just be like the term naturally flavored. Full spectrum can be that's like it. I don't know. As a matter of fact, I would assume it has no real definition, to be honest. I assume it has what people there's like an idea of what it means, but there certainly isn't a legal definition of full spectrum. So I assume anybody is free to allege that their cannabis is full spectrum because nobody knows what that means. There's no agreed upon standard. That's just some insider shit for you about how a lot of things work. Especially things that are health or food related. They use very squishy, fungible words that don't that are designed not to mean anything. Like they are constructed to have very little meaning. Okay. Well, I am about to wrap up here, guys. My voice is starting to get a little raspy, get a little winded. I'm also getting just insanely high. I do want to get through some chat here, so I'm going to do some speed around. But I will do some Icon Skywalker vape while I'm doing this to satisfy your THC lust, your understandable THC lust. I mean, I'm advertising myself as somebody who smokes a lot of weed and too much THC, so I better perform, goddammit. Nathan Bobo, welcome, Mr. Bobo. I hope you don't mind if I call you Mr. Bobo. If you do, I apologize. Let me know. I'll call you Nathan Bobo. Miller Time says, favorite music. I love me some 60s and 70s rock the most, whether I'm high or not, but it's best when high. Miller Time, great Q. I like the genre of music called, I guess, sad bastard music is sort of what is referred to as indie rock, largely, pretty if you would look at me and if you were to look at me and say I bet that guy's a fan of, you'd probably be right. Actually, not necessarily true, because music is, while I love the music that I love, music is probably the biggest art form. It's probably the art form outside of like formal art is, high art, fine art, but of the large pop art sort of groups, film, television, literature, music, it's like, I like the music that I like, but music is not my favorite form of entertainment, or it's not my favorite kind of art. I prefer film. I prefer literature. I prefer video games. But to answer your question, that's just to suggest I probably look like somebody who loves music a lot, but I don't have particularly. I certainly don't have good taste, but I don't even have particularly robust taste. Like, favorite bands would be The Shins, Jason Isbell, Phoebe Bridgers, Iron and Wine, the Mountain Goats, The National, Waxahachie. Yeah, those kind. If you looked at me and you said that guy likes, you're probably right. That was a very long answer. Derek says, smoking weed hits me the hardest out of everything, as an example to edibles, but like my tincture and sprays on the side and cartridges also. Derek, you're not the... I have a friend, a close friend, who has the very same opinion, or the very same... Opinion is not the right word, or the same experience. There we go. To him, nothing is better than flower. Nothing gets him higher than just smoking bud. I mean, edibles will get him high, and oil will get him high, and tinctures will get him high. But for him, his edibles are flower. For him. So there are certainly people that have different experiences, and that's one of the great things about weed. Gravel asks what I've been up to. Selling ice cream out of a bicycle. Literally. Valid. Oh, we're talking about alcohol. That was a long time ago, and I'm sorry I'm so far behind on chat, but very true. YouTube says, I'd rather see my son smoke a tree and not wrapped around a tree. I've never heard it put that way before, but wow. Agreed. Mad Crypto says, smoked a weed. Here's where everybody was chiding me for not smoking. Miller, again with the favorites. Favorite movies. Any new favorites during quarantine? Oh man, that's the thing I have strong opinions on. Number one favorite movie is Election. It's the best movie ever made. Election, watch it. I think it's just came out on Amazon Prime or Hulu, one of the two, streaming. So if you have one of those services, you must watch it. Election, it's the best movie ever made. Alexander Payne, 1999. Election, best movie ever made. Number two is Adaptation, the best movie ever written. Now, I can understand why people would hate Adaptation. I'm one of those dumb, postmodernist schmucks that loves living in their metafictive layers of bullshit, and that's what Adaptation is. Charlie Kaufman, Spike Jonze, 2004. Watch it. It's the best written movie ever. It'll blow your fucking mind. If you've never seen Adaptation, you'll think to yourself, how have I not heard of this movie before? It's so fucking mind-blowing. Number three, The Squid and the Whale. Noah Baumbach, however you say his name. It's like 80 minutes long. It's about terrible people, insufferable people, and one insufferable person kind of learning that he might be insufferable and maybe trying, if not to change it, to at least recognize it. Squid and the Whale, check it out. That's good. Three good ones. Best movie from last year, real quick. I guarantee you haven't seen it. The best movie from 2019 wasn't Parasite, but it was close. It was a Japanese movie called One Cut of the Dead. It is a horror comedy. All I will tell you is these two things. Do not Google it. Do not Google it. Do not Google it. Just watch it. Do not Google it. Do not right now start typing One Cut of the Dead. Please don't. Please don't do that to yourself. Just watch it. Find One Cut of the Dead and watch it. It is a Japanese horror comedy about a group of filmmakers that go to make a zombie horror movie at like this abandoned power plant, and while they're there to make this movie, actual zombies attack them. The other thing I will tell you is the movie is like 90 minutes long. It's a full length movie. It is a whole 90 minutes long. Don't get tricked. One Cut of the Dead, best movie from last year. I guarantee you will watch it and say to yourself, oh my fucking God, I cannot believe people are so much smarter than me. I feel stupid. People are so clever. People are so fucking smart. People are so fucking ingenious. I love it. It'll make you just, it's so great. It's such a joyful, just mind-blowingly incredible experience. One Cut of the Dead. Dynabape has a coil for concentrates. I did think that I had heard that. Thank you, Adam E., that they had like a convertible type thing. I know Volcano now does too, the new version of Volcano. YouTube is PoopTube says, it's an experience, man. Wife will never eat a brownie out of the table again. We've all had that cross that line, that extra bite of brownie, that one too many levels, or that other experience where you did not know that the brownie was a special brownie. But it's weed. You'll be fine. Just hopefully you're not an anxious person on weed. Sherry and Arthur say, like GMO has no definition. Advertisers are ruthless. Yes, they are. Carlos asks, have I ever tried the Delta 8 vape? They are amazing. I have not. I don't think I've seen them, but I will now be on the lookout. Thank you, Carlos. Miller, favorite flicks, went over that. Low Eye says, what? You're talking about the end of the world? Maybe. I think I was. Low Eye says, I'm going to watch the whole 90-minute Don't Delete live when it's done. Forrest says, sups wheats. Yes, Forrest, welcome. Sorry, Forrest, just so far behind on chat, I am sorry. One Cut of the Dead, yes, the Japanese amateur zombie movie. Yes, you've seen it, you're amazing. We're in a club together. People who've seen that movie now have a different shared experience. We know a different level of joy that other people don't. Tom A says he loves zombies. It's a zombie movie. Low Eye says, what's the movie called again? It is called One Cut of the Dead. But don't read one thing about it. Don't. Please, for the love of God, don't. Miller says, One Cut of the Dead is on Shudder, horror streaming service, so I'll definitely watch it. I've heard Shudder is an amazing streaming service if you are a horror fan, which I am, but I've never used Shudder, so I can't actually back that up, but I should because I do like horror stuff. Jason Andrews says, One of the Cut of the Dead at Low Eyes, and Forrest Law says, dude, you are way behind, which is ironic because I am now all caught up. And my voice is not going to thank me. But I'm going to thank me. No, that's really self-congratulatory, and we won't go there. But I will thank all of you instead for hanging out with me. I'm sorry I'm leaving here. As you can tell, my voice is getting a little raw. So I'm going to go drink some liquids. And I'm going to go play some Hard Space Shipbreaker on Steam. if you need a way to lose countless hours of your life, there's an option. So until then, you guys have a great day. Low Eyes, you're the best too. Take care. It's been a blast. I'll see you guys next time.